5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We're in the pipe. 5 by 5.
This is the 5 on Film podcast.
Hello and welcome to 5 on Film, the podcast where we try and break down the top 5 in the world of film. I'm your host, Paul Cree, and joining me this week is the full 5 on Film panel. Chris.
Hello.
John.
Hello there.
Matt.
Hey guys.
And Ollie.
It's the original lineup.
It is. Before we go into today's topic, the show works with 3 rounds: nomination, elimination, and ranking. We're each going to try and nominate a film that we think deserves to be on this week's top 5. Once we get our initial 7, we're going to rank those films. And then once we've got, we're going to try and eliminate those films, and then leave us with 5, which we're going to try and rank. This week's topic is one that we decided on as a group collectively, one that we all wanted to do, which is musicals. So, Chris, why did we want to do musicals? Why did you want to do musicals?
Oh, I'm so pleased that we're doing this. I've been looking forward to doing this topic since it was first mentioned. And I was actually really pleasantly surprised that all of you were on board with this, because I genuinely thought this was going to be a hard sell for me to get you guys to want to watch musicals. They are just the best. I've grown up with musicals all of my life. I've been in several musicals. I watch them all the time. The very first film was a musical by default. They are great, and they transfer to the stage and vice versa. So many stage musicals will then be made into films. And I think it's a British institution as well as an American one. They're some of the best films ever made, in my opinion.
Excellent. Well, you started us off there, Chris. So do you want to start the first nomination? Go on. What is the first film that you think deserves to be on this list?
Okay, so I have struggled to reduce my list down to 5 or 6. I am at 10, and that's come down from about 30. So
Wow.
I've had to approach this list very carefully because, as I'd said, musicals are very close to my heart, and I've been involved in making musicals, being in them, and that's involved on the stage. So I've had to separate what I see as the stage version of a show from the film version, because that's been quite difficult. So I'm thinking primarily of what is the best film musical, rather than if I've been in it, or if I've gone to see it in the West End or on Broadway. So purely from a film perspective, I am going to nominate Moulin Rouge as my top choice. Moulin Rouge is a film by Baz Luhrmann. It came out in 1999. It stars Ewan McGregor as Christian, a penniless writer who travels to Bohemian Paris to seek his fortune, where he stumbles across Satine, played by Nicole Kidman, in the Moulin Rouge. And then Christian is mistaken for the Moulin Rouge's new benefactor, the Duke, who's the baddie, and hilarity ensues. Then he embarks on a love affair with Satine, whilst hiding it from the Duke, all while they're trying to get the Duke to pay for this new show that they're putting on. It is classed as a jukebox musical, although I don't see it as a jukebox musical. They kind of mega mixed a lot of songs from pop culture. It's, for example, they mix Like a Virgin with Smells Like Teen Spirit really well. And it's just amazing. It was nominated for 8 Oscars, sorry. It won 2, Best Costume and Best Set Design. It was a sleeper hit initially, came out in summer of '99. Not many people went to see it on its initial release, but it just stayed in the cinemas throughout the whole summer, and it just gained momentum. And then comes award season time, they just thought, well, why don't we just put it in as a for your consideration? And then it ended up getting 8 nominations and 2 wins at the Oscars, along with several other, I think it was Golden Globes as well. It's frenetic editing. Most of the shots are less than half a second long. And to further enhance my connection to the film, I've done a concert version before, and also I decided for some bizarre reason to reshoot shot for shot one of the scenes from the film with my friends, which I did, and that was great. Yeah. So yeah, it's a fantastic film, and I think it's the epitome of a modern musical. We kind of talk about classic musicals from the 50s and 60s, and this is very much the modern musical. Nothing like it has been done before, and definitely nothing has been like it since.
Okie doke. Moulin Rouge, our first nomination. John, you nominated a Baz Luhrmann movie on last week's podcast.
Yes.
So are you going to say yes to another Baz Luhrmann one this week?
This one is, I have to say, as a follow-up to Strictly Ballroom and definitely Romeo and Juliet. This is definitely kind of like these are the 3. These are his 3 red curtain films. Yeah, I mean, I have to say it bummed me out at the end. But then again, they tell you right at the beginning what's going to happen. It is mad. It is huge. It is so over the top. I mean, everything I said about Strictly Ballroom is basically amped up to 1,000 in this. I mean, if they could do it, they got away with it. So yeah, actually, this is actually one of a really, really good modern musical. So yeah, and just to echo the jukebox thing, really good reimaginings of songs that you wouldn't really expect. So I mean, Fatboy Slim doing the Can 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 and things like that. They were actually put some real good thought into it. So yeah, I think this should be one of ours.
Nice one. Matt, is this going to make it?
Yes, yeah, Moulin Rouge, definitely. I'm really glad that it's come up so early. I'll be honest. Can I just do a quick correction on the date it was released? I think it was 2001, and the only reason I remember that is because I'd moved down to London from Cheshire that year. And I really remember going to the cinema to see it, and it was in the same year as
according
AI.
According to a very popular movie website, it was released in 2001.
It's the only reason I would remember that is because the cinema trip that night was quite a big thing, because I don't go to a lot of musicals at all, and for me to go to a musical was quite a big thing. So yes, I think it's absolutely fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. I think it exploded the musical film back into the 21st century, because I suppose you could look at the 80s and 90s that musical had kind of languished. There wasn't much that had been put onto the screen for musicals during those 2 decades. Everything that Chris said, echo that. Sumptuous, opulent, banquet for the eyes, wonderful costumes, art direction, set design. inspirations from India and the Far East, places like that, and the songs are just absolutely just another level, really. Like, they're mashups, aren't they? They're mashups. I mean, Baz Luhrmann took the concept of a mashup song and just like shot it into the next galaxy. It's just littered with hits from like the 20th century. I mean, I wrote a few of them down. You've got Madonna, Nirvana, Patti LaBelle, The Police, Elton John, David Bowie, Whitney Houston. I mean, the list is endless. And what I like best about the movie, I think, is just the so many intricate details. Each millimeter of the frame is like compressed with just minutiae that you can spot every time something new when you watch it. And I saw it a couple of days ago again, rewatched it. And when they're doing the final performance, when they raise the curtains, there's actors hanging off the curtain ties as they pull up the curtains. It's just little tiny things like that. And I love the elephant set. I think it's absolutely incredible. The way they built that, and apparently they built 3 versions of it for the different shots that they had to do, using a miniature set and CGIing in the group with Toulouse-Lautrec as they're kind of like pulling themselves up the side of the elephant to take a look inside. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Love it. Brilliant. And my favorite sequence is the Roxanne sequence. I think that's just the way that's edited and cut together between the dance floor, the ballroom dance floor, and Satine and the Duke in the Gothic Tower. It's just fantastic. And as Chris said, in the first 15 minutes alone, there must be at least 3,000 cuts, edits. It's mind blowing, really, really good. So yeah, I'm glad that's been mentioned. It was my number 2.
Excellent. Well, it's made our initial list. Ollie, would it have been a yes?
It's not in my top 5. It's in my kind of ones just outside my top 5. So I'd have said yes for it kind of making an initial list of 7. I'm a big fan of Ewan McGregor. I think he can turn his hand to anything. And he's cast in such a wide variety of roles, and like musical in this one, he nails that as well. I love the use of the kind of modern pop music and what Baz Luhrmann did with that. Yes, so I think it's worthy of our initial list, definitely.
Nice one. And it would have been a yes from me as well. I like the film. I feel like 5 yeses. It was number 5 on my list, so it wasn't at the very top, but it was in there. I think it definitely deserves to be there. I feel like Satine's life is supposed to parallel Freddie Mercury potentially. I've heard that muted, and when someone said that, I feel like that maybe is true. I'm not sure whether it is or not, but all of us unanimous. We like Moulin Rouge, so that is.
Can I just say quickly that apparently it was released on the 7th of September, 2001. So that's 20 years ago yesterday, which is
wow.
Yeah.
I should have just said when this was the 7th of September that we're recording, because nobody knows that.
This is true.
Let's do that bit again.
I should also have said that during the filming, Hugh McGregor, who's a high tenor, he sang all of that stuff live, and there was no auto-tuning. And your song, that was the first take. Baz Luhrmann used the first take.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, personally, it's taken a while for me to get used to his voice. I did go and see Guys and Dolls when he was performing in that, which was about 15 years ago on the West End. And his voice is actually really good. Yeah, it's a bit reedy, I suppose, at the high end, but he copes with those songs very well.
Definitely. All right, so moving on. John, have you got a second one?
Well, let's see. I'm going to bring it bang up to date. This is one that came out in the past couple of years. It's another jukebox musical, and it kind of got overshadowed by one released around about the same time, which I felt a biopic that wasn't quite, in my opinion, not quite as good as this one. And this one is most definitely a musical. I'm going to go for Rocket Man. Basically, the Elton John biographical musical, which plays fast and loose with all the facts. Apparently, I took my wife to see this one day. It was fairly quiet afternoon. So me and my wife, without the kids, managed to get away. And the first thing you see on screen is Taron Egerton running down the hallway, devil horns and orange outfits and everything, running into a self-help group, going, help me. And it goes on from there. It is, from a biopic point of view, it is a warts and all story of growing up in the 50s and 60s and the excesses of rock and roll in the 70s, going and the decline in the 80s and the saving and getting saved. And it's and it is so expertly done. It is done like a musical, and most biopics will turn around and kind of go timeline. We'll do the songs in order. This is what happened when. They throw that completely out the window and just use the songs to service the story. So You Will Be Loved? I think it is. It's one of the first songs where he's as a child, Elton John as a child, singing about his family, singing about how his dad is very cold and his mum's kind of a bit selfish. But that's right up front, when it's actually from the 90s, at least. And everything is very well staged. It's done like a big number. Everything's a big number. Elton John was involved heavily. Taron Egerton is, I don't think I've actually seen him do a bad role yet. Actually, I think he's a very good actor and very talented. And I think he's actually he pulls this off very well. It's not a parody of Elton John. It's actually a very well-rounded character. I think Richard Madden as his manager is evil, and plays it straight down the line. He plays it as an evil businessman. He's absolutely perfect. I think this is. I think this should be. Although one of the most modern, I think this is one that should be on the list. Cool,
Matt, Rocket Man.
I'm really afraid to say I've not seen it. Okay. It's on the list. It's one of those ones that if I'd have had more time, then I would have watched. So
okay,
sorry.
Ollie.
I watched it for the first time the other day. I actually really enjoyed it, much more than I sort of thought I was going to. Taron Egerton was absolutely brilliant. It was Dexter Fletcher, wasn't it, that directed it?
Yeah.
And he directed him in another movie where he plays another biopic. Was it called
Eddie the Eagle?
Is it called Eddie the Eagle?
Yeah,
that's brilliant as well. That's really fun.
Mm.
And he's fantastic in that too. I like that it kind of jumps around in time. I like that it kind of gives you that kind of insight into Elton's life. I don't know, when I'm watching things like that, I want to know how much of that is accurate, how much of it's real. What do his parents kind of think of this movie? What does the guy, Richard Madden's character, think of it when this kind of comes out? I really like the relationship between him and his writer, and that they kind of went all that time working together and never had an argument. I think that's a really kind of sweet relationship they have that's really nicely portrayed. Again, it's not in my top 5, but it's in the kind of group of 3 just outside that. So yes, it's a yes from me for Rocket Man.
I'm in a very similar camp. I'm a man who's not particularly a big Elton John fan. My favourite Elton John song is Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting, because I like my rock music, and that is the heaviest song.
And fighting on a Saturday.
Yeah. But I really engaged with the movie. I watched it. Last year in lockdown. Me and the missus sat down and watched it, and yeah, really enjoyed it. I think it is up there. For me, it's in that little. I haven't really ranked the 3 or 4 films that are sat below my 5, but it's in that. So yeah, I think it deserves to be on the initial list. So it's a yes from me, which means it has made the initial list. Chris, would it have been yes from you?
No, it wouldn't.
Okay.
I think it's a really good film. I was a bit wary of it. I'm a huge Elton John fan. I often sing his songs at karaoke. So I'm actually quite excited for this film to be turned into an actual musical so that I can perform it, because I could probably see myself cast as an aging Elton John. But it's just not quite up there. I think maybe if I reviewed it and if I came back to another 5 years, maybe let a little more time pass. But I agree with all the points that everyone's made, that it's a really well told story. Taron Egerton, his performance is magnificent. He was robbed of being nominated for an Oscar. He should have been. It won Best Song at the Oscars. Yeah, it's great, but it didn't get to my top 10.
Okay. Well, it's made the list. That said, so John, 2 nominations are on. Matt, have you got a third one?
I have. Yes. I'm hoping this is a fairly safe bet, this one. Would you know what I'm talking about when I say I'm the mean green mother from outer space?
And I'm mad.
Little Shop of Horrors. A real classic, cult classic, although I don't really like to use that term too often. It's just so much fun. Rick Moranis as Seymour Krelborn, Ellen Green as Audrey, and a chap called Vincent Gardenia as Mushnik the florist. And there's been an eclipse of the moon, and Rick Moranis, eclipse of the sun. Sorry, yes, eclipse of the sun. Yeah. And Seymour, Rick Moranis's character, is an assistant florist for Mushnik, and Audrey works in the same shop as him, and he's a bit of a bumbling kind of like lovable guy, not very good at his job, but wants to better himself, so he's always on the lookout for interesting things. The florist is doing really, really badly, and so Audrey and Seymour cook up. Let's go out and find some interesting things. So he ends up finding, he goes out shopping for some interesting plants, some new species of plants, and out of nowhere, like lightning, this plant arrives at the Chinese florist. So he picks up and he buys it, and yeah, it's one of those kind of like irreverent science fiction black comedy type mashup. It's really good. It's like under 90 minutes long, and not a single minute is wasted. It's just chock full of fantastic songs, in my opinion anyway. You got the title track, Little Shop of Horrors, and then it goes into Skid Row Downtown, which is just a brilliant ensemble. Feed Me, you've got Supper Time, and you've got the fantastic Suddenly Seymour track, the one that I mentioned before, Mean Green Mother from Outer Space. It's just brilliant. And like I said, it is a bit of a mashup, like between like a 1950s, 1960s rhythm and blues. You've got rock and roll, you've got doo-wop, little sprinkle of salsa and calypso in there as well. Real eclectic kind of combination. It's got a real good pedigree. It's based on an existing musical stage production, which was by Alan Menken and Howard Ashman, and it was an off-Broadway production originally, and apparently it was one of the most profitable off-Broadway productions ever, if not still. And obviously it eventually sort of sold very, very well and went on to Broadway. And Alan Menken, if you recall, is the guy who did the lyrics and the music and the songs for stuff for Disney, like Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Pocahontas. He's like the go-to guy. I mean, I think the guy's won like 8 Oscars and nominated for, I don't know, 22 or something ridiculous like that. And Howard Ashman, who was the lyricist on Little Shop of Horrors, I think he was a lyricist, or maybe Alan Menken was. I can't recall. He sadly died. I think maybe a year or two after, or maybe around the same time as Little Shop of Horrors came out on off Broadway. So it's quite sad. There's a whole history to that, which is worth looking into. Yeah, and the voice of Audrey 2, and Audrey 2 is the plant, and the plant is basically this bloodthirsty. He's got plans for world domination. He's got murder on his mind. There's a great scene where Rick Moranis cuts his finger, and he's sucking his finger, and all you hear in the background is just a shot of Rick Moranis's, and it keeps going. You're wondering, oh, what's going on? What's going on? And then it's just this brilliant little shot of the tiny plant just sucking, wants a little bit of blood, and you just get the sense of humor from that scene. It's just absolutely brilliant. And what is incredible for me, anyways, is the puppetry. It's just absolutely remarkable, utterly remarkable. I mean, they must have taken, I don't know, 60 puppeteers at one time, I think I read, when it's at its largest. So they did several different sizes of Audrey 2. And when it was at its largest, they had up to like 60 puppeteers. And I think one of them was Jim Henson. I think I read somewhere that Jim Henson was involved in it as well. And they had to film it in a different, the frames had to be halved for the actual the movement of the mouth to be more lifelike. So when they played it back at 24 frames, I think the original 24 frames a second, they'd filmed it at 12, and when it sped up, it was just more fluid, and it just looked a lot more lifelike, more convincing. So the actors at the same time had to mouth the words at a much slower speed so that they could be matched at the same time. So it must have been quite difficult for them. Fantastic cameos, absolutely amazing cameos from Steve. Well, Steve Martin's the main character in this as Dr. Dentist, Orin Scrivello, and he just steals the show completely. Absolutely fantastic as the sadistic dentist. Some of his scenes when he's singing his song Dentist are just brilliant, and it got me, and I was creasing up and I was laughing so much that he went back into one of his operating theatres, and he looks around and his patient is just hanging from the ceiling because he's so scared of him. Just wonderful. And apparently he took a long time to film his sequences, his scenes, because he had so much input. He wanted to be involved so much with it. So a lot of his stuff was improvised. You got a cameo from Bill Murray, which is just sensational, all improvised. And he is the masochist to the dentist sadist. And that scene in particular is just immensely funny. You've got Christopher Guest making a small cameo as one of the customers, the very first customer that comes in, when they all mention, oh no, maybe the customers will come in and they'll be interested in this plant, and then ding ding ding, the door opens and I'm very interested in this plant. Brilliant little cameos, all littered all the way through. I just love it. I think it's just remarkable what they did with the puppetry there. There are a few, I think there's 2 different versions. There was the original version, which had a happy ending, which I don't recall, actually. I don't recall seeing that one. I've only ever seen the director's cut version, firstly in black and white when they included it on the DVD. And then later on, they released the full version in color, which is the one that I rewatched recently. So I'd never seen that before, and it was a real shame because obviously they'd spent a huge amount of money of the budget on that end sequence. It's like 20 minutes extra of the plants taking over New York and then subsequently taking over America. It's brilliant. And Rick Moranis has got a good voice. The lady who plays Audrey is just sensational. And when she belts out "Suddenly Seymour," you just want to get up and yes, this is so good. Yeah, it's a cult classic. It's a cult classic for a reason. And I think I know that you lot are going to agree with this because I'm just, what's not to like? It's just, even after all these years, it's fantastic. So hopefully that'll get on the list.
Nice one, nice one. Ollie, I know you've watched this film recently, and there was one cameo that Matt didn't mention, so I'm going to throw it to you.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah,
That was
Is
my
it?
favourite bit in the film.
I left
was
it
the John Candy as the radio host. He's like standard kind of over the top wild John Candy. I did really enjoy that bit. It was Frank Oz that directed it, wasn't it? So Frank Oz of kind of Miss Piggy, Yoda, and Muppets kind of fame. I feel like I should have enjoyed this movie more, but I don't know. Maybe it's because the first time I watched it was the other day, and I hadn't watched it as a child, so I don't have that kind of nostalgia for it. I did enjoy it, but not enough for it to kind of make my top 8. So I'm gonna have to say no.
Okay, no. Like you, I watched this for the first time very recently. I watched it last night for the very, very first time. And I started this movie on my tablet. And 5 minutes in, I paused it and put it on my big screen TV at home and wanted some decent music because I was loving it from 5 minutes in. I was like, I can't watch this on my tablet. I'm going to have to watch this on a big screen. And I was engaged from start to end. I was tapping my feet. Steve Martin just was outstanding. I really, really enjoyed it. There's a couple of films that are higher on my personal list, and this is one that's in that like 6, 7, 8 when I remade my list this morning. But yes, because I really enjoyed it last night, so I would watch it on the stage now. I really enjoyed it. So that's 2, Matt. Chris?
I've played Audrey 2 on stage, so I could not say yes. It's in my top 10. It's a fantastic film. I grew up watching it. Seymour is one of the roles that I've always wanted to do on stage. Sadly, I kind of missed that opportunity but I got to play the plant and eat him instead. So that was good enough for me. Definitely on the list.
Oh, there we go. That has made the list. John, what have you said? Yes.
Yes. Matt, callback to Roger Corman, who did the original version of this.
Yes, of course.
I noticed that on the credits.
in the 1960s. This is one of his. We have a set. Let's do something in it.
Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson
was the patient.
The patient, yes, the patient.
Yes, absolutely. And I love the fact that Audrey 2 is voiced by one of the Four Tops.
Yeah.
Levi Stubbs. It is one of those VHSs that my mum had lying around the house when I was a kid, and I absolutely loved it. The songs are catchy, and absolutely. I think I'd put it on the list, definitely.
And kudos to the chorus girls as well. The Greek chorus, isn't it? They're the 3 that come on and they just they bridged the songs and the narrative together. I thought they were fantastic as well. And I wish I'd written their names down because they deserve a shout out. They're very good as well.
The other thing as well, there is a remake currently in pre-production.
Oh
no, is there?
Well, you say that.
Oh, don't tell me who's in it.
I'm going to connect the last 2 films because Taron Egerton apparently is rumored to be replacing and playing Rick Moranis' role in the movie.
He's not geeky enough for Seymour.
Have we heard his voice? Have you seen
Sing?
I've seen Sing, and I've
seen the animation.
Yeah.
No, is he in that singing?
Taron Egerton.
Yeah, well, that's how we met Elton John.
Yeah.
He can't sing.
Oh, sorry. Of course, he played Elton John, didn't he? Sorry.
So that's that. Apparently, it's
are you sure he's not the dentist?
And no, so the dentist apparently is rumored cast. No, is Chris Evans of Captain America fame.
Oh, okay.
I can see that.
Yeah, that works.
And the female lead, apparently, the rumor is one Scarlett Johansson. So, yeah.
I can see that.
I went down a
Anne
rabbit hole last
Hathaway,
night while
maybe.
watching it.
Better.
So, yeah.
Can I just mention, because I'm going to try and mention one of my favorite scenes in each of the movies that I'm talking about. And there's a little scene in this where Seymour goes to the radio station with Winkleman, the John Candy character, and he's sat outside waiting to get in to speak to him, and the plant just wakes up, and they've got the ladies bent over in front of the plant, and the plants they just spend maybe 2 or 3 minutes on the plant, and the plant just edges towards the lady's bottom, and he just tries to go.
Yeah.
It's just so funny, so funny.
Well, nice one. So that's 3 for 3. Ollie, have you got number 4?
I hope so. This is the musical that I've watched the most. I watched it kind of loads growing up. It's from 1968. It's the musical Oliver! ! It was obviously a Charles Dickens novel, then was adapted to be a play. And then the 1968 version with, I think, the young lad who played Oliver was called Mark Lester, is that right? And obviously you've got Oliver Reed. It was a very early role for Oliver Reed. I can't watch another kind of version of Oliver without being disappointed that it's not the musical version. So every time that it's kind of there's a production of it, whether it's a film or a TV or kind of a play, this version of Oliver is kind of so imprinted in my mind that everything else just kind of disappoints. I think that the person that plays Oliver, he's just kind of so sweet and innocent, and he's obviously kind of thread through this kind of like awful kind of time as an orphan. You see him kind of started in the orphanage, and then he's kind of like duped into the one that has to kind of go up and ask for more kind of gruel, and then he's kind of like dragged down the street in the snow and kind of sold off. I'm just starting to think maybe my parents kind of showed me this movie so much so that I was grateful that I kind of wasn't an orphan, perhaps, and a bit more appreciative. But I think with some musicals, sometimes it's kind of a bit jarring, maybe when they kind of like break into song. I think this one isn't like that. It's as much a drama as it is a musical, and you feel kind of very emotionally attached to all the kind of characters going through it. I think Oliver is probably my favorite musical. I've watched it so many times. I think it was probably, maybe it was my grandparents had it on VHS, but whenever I was around there, kind of put it on. But yeah, the musical Oliver from 1968 is one of my favorites.
I watched it a lot as a kid. I think the first time I watched it was at school. I feel like it's weird that it's a film that was okay to be watched at school.
Of course it is.
Yeah, and it was one that people put on. And then I've watched it since. It is a classic. I've seen it on stage. Really enjoy it. Again, it's in that little pot below, but I feel like for its historical value as well, it's up there as one of the top musicals. So I'll give it a nod. Yes. Chris, Oliver.
I've been in it 2-3 times.
Who did you play?
Awful Dodger.
I was just moving scenery. No, I was just.
You're not Bill Sykes.
No,
Sykes.
I had to point at Bill Sykes at one point, and then in another production, I had to shoot him or shoot at him. Yeah, that was quite fun. It's on my list. Pretty high. Sorry, I just mislaid it. It's number 4 on my list. Directed by Carol Reed, Oliver Reed's cousin. So a bit of nepotism there. It's brilliant. It's a really good film. Every time you watch the scene where Oliver's made to break into a house and he knocks over that dish and you just see it on the floor, you're just hoping that it doesn't fall and make a lot of noise. Sorry, that just scene popped into my head. No. It's amazing. Love it. Really good. Great musical.
It's on the list. We've gone 4 for 4, lads. John, you said yes.
It's It's definitely one of the classics, and it's definitely a good film. I don't know if it. I haven't rewatched it for this, I have to say. So it's one that probably deserves to be revisited. Am I right in thinking that Ron Moody was Fagin in this because he'd done it for David Lean first?
No, he'd been on
So-
stage for it. He'd done
Oh,
the stage
yeah.
production maybe 8-10 years before. That was what's it called? The Star Wars guy who did the David Lean version as Fagin, Alec Guinness.
Oh, okay.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that's fine. Yeah, but he's kind of like the one that has always been that everyone kind of thinks of and has kind of lived his entire life being
As
Fagin
Fagin.
for
Yeah.
for generations and generations. And the Artful Dodger's cute and cheeky and nice too.
He was nominated for an
Um,
Oscar.
He
one of the
was, wasn't he?
youngest people
Wow.
ever to be nominated for an Oscar. He didn't win. Yeah.
Okay.
Jack Wilde.
It just happens to, it has to be, it's a classic, and it is a classic. So yeah.
Matt? Yes? No?
Yeah, no, sorry, yes.
I didn't throw that at you.
Chris and Ollie have stolen two of my top five, so I'm already like 3 down on my top 5. Oliver was my number 1 for me.
Nice.
Very much like Ollie. I spent my formative years practically every Christmas, Easter, summer, whenever it was on, which is usually in a holiday, watching the fantastic Oliver. I just love it. And just let me reel the songs off for you, and just, they're unforgettable, and there is so many crowd pleasing songs. Food, glorious food, reviewing the situation, I'd do anything as long as he needs me, consider yourself, be back soon, Papa, pick a pocket or two, it's a fine life. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, and they're all singable, and they're all those ones where you find yourself humming the next day, like you're cooking your lunch and you're like, oh, da, 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 and you're humming along and you think, oh my God, it just gets into your head. My favorite scene in this one is definitely the reviewing the situation with Ron Moody in this, and I love all those scenes that he has with the pickpocket kids. I just think they're fantastically choreographed. The kids are brilliant. In a Artful Dodger, Jack Wilde, his name was, who sadly is dead now. Very young, portrayed that character with all its kind of like impish cheekiness, huge like charisma, and I love the father-son kind of mentor situation that they've got going on together with Fagin. And Fagin, Ron Moody, as he plays it in a very sneaky, mischievous way, wink and a nod, and he's actually quite a likable character, despite in the book, which I did read for college A level, being extremely sinister, the Fagin in the book. None of this likability. But I like his comic touches, and I think Ron Moody and Oliver Reed and Jack Wilde really make this. In fact, I think the lady was called Shani Wallace, who played Nancy. And Oliver Reed in this, the whole scene when he's introduced, the way that Carol Reed, the director, introduces him as he's walking through these labyrinthine alleyways, and the lighting, just his shadow just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as he's being watched walking down the alleyway, and you hear bullseye coming through on the audio. It's fantastic. It's unforgettable for me. It holds a huge amount of nostalgia, huge amount of nostalgia, which is probably the reason why it was number 1 for me. But I love Carol Reed, the director, as well. I think he brings a lot of his talent as an Oscar-winning director to this film. If anyone gets a chance to watch The Third Man, that Carol Reed directed with Orson Welles in the 1940s, fantastic movie, and a British film. It won a ton of Oscars, and I would happily put this on any musical list, and I would happily ask anybody on the street whether what they would say would be their number 1 musical, and I bet you that this one would hit the top. without a doubt, especially with people over the age of 30 anyway. So yeah,
Imagine they
Scott gone.
tell you to stop talking to them.
I'm sure they would, especially if I was doing this.
Nice one.
Yeah, I think it's a Lionel Bar, isn't it?
Yeah,
Chris?
sorry, we haven't
Leslie
spoken-
Bacchus and Lionel Barr, yeah.
Yeah, he apparently he couldn't play the piano. He couldn't actually do music. So what he did, he just had the tunes in his head and he dictated them to somebody.
Musical
Oh,
genius,
so-
apparently.
Yeah.
All right.
So, really good.
We've got 4. And it's
We've got
round to
form
me.
ideas. We've got
Yeah.
form ideas.
We have. So I'm looking at my list and I've got a few near the top. And I'm going to nominate a film that I don't think is going to make our list, but I want to highlight it because I think it's absolutely brilliant. And that's probably because of a lot of nostalgia. And I've watched it possibly more times than the original. I'm going to take you to Rydell High, but I'm going to take you there 2 years after the events of Grease. And I'm going to take you and introduce you to Stephanie of the Pink Ladies and Michael, the Sandy's cousin from England. And I'm going to nominate Grease 2 because I think Grease 2 in many ways is better than the original. It is not as well known. A lot of people might not even know that there was a sequel to Grease, but Grease 2, I think, has some better songs, a excellent leading lady performance from Michelle Pfeiffer, just songs, reproduction, Who's That Guy? I own the soundtrack. I've watched this so many times in my formative years. I've watched Grease far too many times. Grease is one of my mum's favourite films. So when Grease 2 was around, I watched that as well. I think that Michael, this story of Michael, this person who has come to Rydell, doesn't know anybody, falls for the leader of the Pink Ladies in Stephanie, and to try and impress her needs to learn how to ride a motorcycle, because in this movie it's motorcycles and not cars like Grease Lightning. I think it's brilliant for a musical. I don't think it's going to make this list, but I hope everybody checks out Grease 2, especially if you enjoy Grease. So Chris, Grease 2.
I've always wondered where the pollen goes because I didn't feel the answer to the question in the song. It's a good follow-up. There are some very good songs in it. They made it into a short-run sort of concert musical a couple of years ago, which I went to see in London. I think it was called Cool Rider, which is the name that he goes for. It's kind of his pseudonym, isn't it? It's just
it's what
alter ego.
It's what Stephanie names him because she doesn't know who is the Cool Rider, so she names him to Cool Rider, and that's her solo song.
It's got some really good songs. Ball Tonight, and what, A Song for All Seasons. That's another one.
Yes, that's near the end of the film. Yes.
But yeah, it's no.
I wasn't expecting a yes there, Chris, but I still wanted to say it.
Yeah, I'll save any more for its bigger, better, older brother.
Yeah. John?
I'd say that it's a shame I haven't seen it, but yeah. No, it has a reputation. There is a following that believe that it's better than the original. It may well be. I may find out one day, but not today. So,
okay, Matt.
Much like John, I've never seen it. I've passed it by many times, and I've just channel surfed beyond it to something else. I don't know. maybe changing rooms or something like that.
Well, it's not made it. Ollie, have you seen Grease 2?
No, I've never seen Grease 2. I think before you watch Grease 2, you have to have enjoyed Grease 1, and I'm not sure I did. So, no.
Well, there we go. There we go.
Spoilers.
Four no's. I didn't think it was going to get on, but I hope everybody watches Grease 2 because it's excellent.
John said you're not the only person that's said that recently. That, there's been quite a few people coming out of the cult of Grease 2 is coming out.
Yes,
is coming out,
yes,
isn't it?
yes. Okay, Chris, on to you, mate. Number 5. Can you get there?
Okay, here we go. I would like to nominate a film with Nazis, with none, with some children dressed in curtains, with amazing Austrian scenery. I'm nominating The Sound of Music. I think it's one of the best films ever made. It stars Julie Andrews as a teaching nun who goes to teach Captain Von Trapp's children. Captain Von Trapp, played by Christopher Plummer, who notoriously hated children. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful film. The hills are definitely alive with music. It was shot entirely in Austria. I have been to all the locations of the film. I went on a tour there. It's one of my mom's favorite films, so I grew up with it. It's got a very dear place in my heart. I took my mom to a concert with Julie Andrews and ended up singing Edelweiss with her, which is amazing.
On stage?
No, it was like an entire sing-along with everyone. It's beautifully shot. This based on a true story about a family trying to evade the Nazis and becoming a troupe of singers. It's beautiful music. I can't gush enough about it. Someone else say something.
John, The Sound of Music.
Yes.
Okay.
I think the only problem, and this is a common problem with lots of musicals kind of prior to 1980s, 1990s, is the fact that they just seem to be a bit long. I think is this about 2.5, 3 hours long?
3 hours.
3
5
hours long.
minutes shy.
Yeah, and the story's good. The ending is their escape is actually very suspenseful. It almost goes to thriller levels. It was directed by what was his name?
Robert Wise.
Robert Wise, yeah. A guy who again shot a lot of B-movie horror films back in the 50s. Also did the first Star Trek film.
Really?
Yeah, really. That's why it's so long. But no, it plays, as with most things, fast and loose with the true history. But apart from that, it is just a feel-good, well-made, lovely film, and with lots of songs that everybody enjoys.
Matt, Sound of Music.
Oh, do you know what? I struggle with this one because it's one that I've watched all the way through, but many years ago, and every time that I attempt to watch it again, I only get partially through it a short way, whether it be the middle section, the beginning, or the end. But you can't deny its place in musical canon, can you? You can't deny its situation as one, if not the top musical of all time, for many reasons that I can't, educated I can't talk about educated enough to be able to explain. So I want to put it on, but I can't, because I really genuinely can't say that I've seen enough of it to warrant it being on my list, let alone. But then I've got this, this quandary whether it should go on anyway. No.
Okay.
I'll probably get shot down for that, but no.
Ollie, Sound Music.
I always approach these lists of what's my favourite of that genre, or from that director or actor or whatever. If I wasn't doing that and I was writing a list of what are the best musicals ever, I'd probably say yes. But because I always approach this from what's my favourite from within that genre, I'm going to have to say no. I watched it loads of times kind of growing up and did really enjoy it as a child. I watched it again recently with the kids. In fact, they watched it when we were driving to Wales on our summer holiday. It was a 3-hour drive, 3-hour movie. Perfect. We popped it on and they watched it all the way there. And they really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think it's got some iconic songs, particularly the Von Trapp kids when they're kind of singing, and it's the kind of the goodnight song, and particularly the little one kind of shuffling up the stairs at the end. That's really sweet, but it's not in my kind of top 8, so I'm gonna have to say no.
And I saw Chris's reaction because he knows that this is not making the list, because I've never seen The Sound of Music. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's one that I wanted to watch for this, but just did not have time. I watched The Little Shop of Horrors. I'm sorry, which I really enjoyed. But I haven't seen The Sound of Music, so I can't say yes, which means it only has 2 votes, Chris. Which
we're terrible, aren't we?
Yeah. I mean, I know of it, I just haven't got around to it, and that sadly means with only 2 yeses that The Sound of Music has not made it onto our list. So, John, you're going to have to try and give us our 5th one.
Right. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go for another classic. Hollywood, 30s, late 20s, 30s. Big stars, newcomer to town, birth of the talkies. Excellent dance numbers, interesting behind the scenes of how Hollywood might work and might have worked at the time, and absolutely, well, at least 2 absolutely standout routines. I suggest Singing in the Rain should be on our list. Directed by Gene Kelly, who choreographed a lot of it, starring Gene Kelly as the big Hollywood star, who looks the part, acts the part, doesn't have to say anything because we're still in the silent era, goes to a party one night and gives a young girl a lift to a party. She says, yes, I'm an actress, all this, that, and the other, and gives it all the big I am. Turns out she comes on as one of the dancing girls as the entertainment at the party. At the end of the night, the owner of the studio puts on The Jazz Singer. And right at the end, Al Jolson goes, wait a minute, you ain't seen nothing yet. And everyone goes, it's a fad, it's not real. And there's no hope in hell. At which point it's a raging success, and everyone goes, we can't make silent films anymore. So Don and his female star start acting and everything, and she's got a terrible voice. and they're wondering what to do. At which point they go and re-find the girl, and she ends up revoicing for the actress, for the star, but getting none of the credit. Because obviously she doesn't know she's got a rubbish voice. So when she suddenly finds out, when she suddenly realizes that they're revoicing for her, Kathy gets fired. But it's basically a budding romance. It's reversioning a film from a black and white Cavalier film into a big musical number with lots of dance numbers, lots of musical numbers, basically the original idea becomes a dream sequence within the finished musical. Gene Kelly does a huge dance number in rain, with water, which is water with milk in it. Apparently, one of the rumors is it had milk in it, so they could see the droplets better. And apparently had hypothermia for quite a time afterwards. And Donald O'Connor, who plays his friend and second banana, does the most wonderful routine, make them laugh, and almost killed himself in the process. And I think it's really, the songs are great. I think it's Singing in the Rain.
Matt, Singing in the Rain.
This was always going to be one that I was going to find tough. There's two or three movies. I've got one of my close friends who's provided me with a great deal of these DVDs, that I've got over here, because they're a huge musical fan, and Singing in the Rain was one of them, and I've seen it many times before, and it doesn't really gel with me. My favorite Gene Kelly movie is An American in Paris. I much prefer that than Singing in the Rain. So I mean, there's my answer basically. But I'm going to say no. But I do feel that we deserve a slap on the wrist for doing this, because we could quite easily have done a top 5 classical musicals and then the rest, and this surely is a classical movie, a classical musical, in the sense of it being in the top 5 or top 10, and I just find it boring. I know it's terrible to say. I just find it boring. It's not for me. It's just not for me. Sorry.
Okay. Ollie?
I've not. I think I've only seen it once. I've not seen it for years. And yeah, a bit like Matt says, if we were kind of doing the list of top 5 kind of classic musicals, and kind of keeping our favorites or whatever to the side, then yeah, it probably should be on there. But I'm basing this again on my favorite musicals, so it's a no from me.
And John, it's the round where Paul hasn't watched classic musicals enough. Which means that Chris is disappointed again because Paul hasn't watched Singing in the Rain.
Damn, Chris, was that on your list?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I'm so sorry. I'm ashamed. I'm so ashamed.
I do feel bad.
Do you know what? It would absolutely have gone on that classic musicals top 5 for me.
I feel bad that I haven't seen it, but I haven't seen it. So, Chris, I'm assuming that would have been a yes from you.
Very much so, yes. I've been in it. I filmed all the scenes for the black and white stuff, which I can link on YouTube on this.
Any of the bits that you've done that you've got videos of, Chris, we should definitely tag them in. And
we will.
Hashtag.
Yeah. I mean, physically add them on. Matt, rather
Yeah.
than put a hashtag.
Okay. Yeah,
Edit the
definitely,
videos in,
definitely.
so we can all see it.
And yeah, they did. They added milk because the cameras and the screen tests of the rain, the cameras couldn't pick up the rain, so it just looked like it was dry when they were going to film the Sing in the Rain scene itself.
I have seen that scene, to be fair. I just haven't seen the rest of the film.
And Gene Kelly had flu whilst they were actually filming it, and he filmed the whole thing with a temperature of 105.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, this is also the film where Debbie Reynolds, she was about 17, 18 at the time, wasn't she?
Yeah.
She started complaining that she was working really hard, and Fred Astaire kind of went up took her under his wing, walked off to the other set, and showed her exactly what hard work was when he had to practice his dancing for his film. And he kind of turned around to her and said, "Suck it up, this is the job."
Yeah.
So,
wow.
I mean, for me, make him laugh is the better choreographed and song and dance number in that film.
Good morning
is brilliant.
Good morning's a brilliant song as well. That's a great routine.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're still at 4 because I haven't watched 2 classics, I'm afraid. So, Matt, have you got the 5th one?
No, you're going to stay at 4. I guarantee you. Because I'm like out of my list. We've had quite a lot of the classical ones that are pretty surefire on my list. And I want to, like you, Paul, I'd like to mention one film. Okay, right. So this is a film from 2007. Which I know you guys have watched. I think we've all probably watched it at this point, having been bandied around and mentioned on the groups and stuff. Whether or not this was actually a musical, in the sense that the definition of a musical being, does music, does song and dance have to play an integral part to the movie itself? Which isn't the definition, but I'm sure someone can look on Google in front of them now and find the exact definition of a musical. But this is a film that holds quite quite a nostalgic place in my heart. It came along at a time of great transition in my life, and I think it touched me in quite a lot of different ways. I was in quite a low space. I was feeling a lot like the main character at that point, I suppose, a little bit kind of like in the doldrums, career-wise, personal life, up and down, kind of fluctuating and stuff. So I connected quite heavily with the male character, male lead in this film. It's a very slight film. It's a very kind of there isn't a huge amount to it. It's called Once for those who've not seen it. It's an Irish movie, and Glenn Hansard, who's the actor who portrays a character called Guy, he's a Dublin busker. He's a singer-songwriter. He's down on his luck. He's out working the streets. He's singing the popular songs during the day for the change, the cash that people can give him. And in the evenings, he comes back and he sings his own compositions. And one evening in the opening, it's kind of like a cold opening, really. You've got him singing on a street in Dublin. The camera opens up on him, and he's blasting out one of his songs. Although I think it might have been a pre-existing song, I'm not sure. Anyway, he's singing this song, and there's a kind of like a comedic sequence that happens where you've got this very, very heavily accented Irish guy who's barely understandable, and he's having a wee in the alleyway next to him, and all this is going on. The song's being played, and this kid wanders out, and you can barely understand him, and you know that he's trying to kind of like steal the change that's been put into this guy, into Glenn Hansard's guitar case. So this sequence continues on, and it does happen that way. And he goes on a chase, and you can see the frustration. This is the frustration he has to live with. This is his day-to-day life, the crap he has to deal with, chasing after pennies, basically. So anyway, it cuts to the next sequence, and it's the evening. He's singing one of his songs, and the passion that comes out from this track is just, is immense. Absolutely, just he's hell for leather singing this song. He's bearing his soul out on the street. And the camera just, it moves in on him, and it comes to the middle of the song, and it moves back out again. And there's this girl, this young girl, this lady who comes over. The camera comes over her shoulder, and she's been listening to him, and she's very supportive of it. She's enjoyed his performance, and they get talking. And it turns out that she's a Czech immigrant who's living in Dublin. Again, down on a luck, quite poor, struggling, having to support her young daughter and her mother, selling flowers during the day. She cleans houses to make ends meet and stuff. And this whole movie is a very slight, short 80 minutes. And there really, for me anyway, there isn't a wasted minute. Another one of these films that there isn't a wasted minute in it at all. It's very tender. It's an aching lament of a musical. It's not a love story as such, in the sense that the two people who find each other, the girl who, ironically, the Marketa Oglova, her name is, she's actually a Czech native who's lived in Ireland for many years. So she plays a character called Girl. So it's Guy and Girl. They're the names of the characters. That's all we have. And she's only 19. And she herself, they're both non-professional actors. Glenn Hansard, who plays the lead character Guy, he's actually a lead singer in a group called The Frames, which is an Irish indie band, and they do folk songs and very acoustic numbers and stuff. And she's also a piano player, a violinist. So they had non-professional actors come in, and they had non-professional actors acting, but they were professional musicians. So it was a bit of a risk, to be honest. And the crux of the story is they meet each other. They are both in a situation where they are listless and floating through life without a direction. They're directionless, and they both had some sort of fractured, broken relationship in the past that they need to come to terms with. And they find each other, and they find this bond through music. And at first, he thinks that there's something romantic, perhaps, that can develop from this, rather than her, who just feels the musical connection. So anyway, it's a boy meets girl. They instantly form this musical bond, and over the course of a few weeks, they go on to grow this deep musical connection, and it leads to much needed companionship. And they go on to record a short EP, a short album. And that's the core of the film. They're anchored by these two really naturalistic performances. And it's really unique to witness. They're not being professional actors. They have so much chemistry together that it's a delight to watch. And it proves once again, to me anyway, that a love story in a movie, and yeah, this is a love story. It's a love of music. It's a musical. It's a love of music. And they're not musical interludes. The music that they're singing to each other and to their previous partners, or they are lamenting about life. It's integral to the film. You take that out of the film, and there is no film. It's buckets of charisma, buckets of chemistry. The passion just screams out between the two of them. They did go on to win the Oscar for Best Song for this movie. It was a roller coaster for them. It picked the Sundance, apparently at Sundance Film Festival that year that it was released. They got a standing ovation that went on for 15, 16 minutes, which was unheard of. And it picked up momentum as it went along. It's a bit of a kind of like a cinema verite kind of film. It's one of those ones where it's not stylish. It's not beautiful to look at. It's cheap. It's an indie. It's picked up on very low quality cameras. A lot of it feels improvised, or at least apart from the music, a lot of the dialogue feels a little bit stilted. It just, for me, it has a lot of evocativeness to it. It was filmed in about 3 weeks with a basically no budget whatsoever. And the music is just sensational for me. The first scene that within the first 10-15 minutes, we get the Oscar-winning song being filmed, and they have no money, so the only way that she can play music is to go to a local a music store in Dublin, and she's asked the proprietor if she can play the piano there on her lunch breaks, and he says yes. So she takes the lead guy over there, says, look, I'm interested in music as well, so let me show you where I go to. And they sit and they basically sing through one of his songs, and it's so beautiful, it's so tender, and they're not singing it to each other, it's just this burgeoning relationship, and it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm a massive sucker for films like this, really, really am. And the construction of that scene is so simple that it but yet so moving. I don't know. I mean, I fell in love with them. And I wanted to know how they would continue their relationship as they went along. And there's a song every 3 or 4 minutes. How anyone could say it's not a musical is beyond me. There's a song every 3 or 4 minutes, and they are integral to the narrative. Yeah, I mean, there's loads more I can say. The soundtrack is a must if you want to get to see the film. Then definitely search out the soundtrack. And I know that the director went on to make one of Paul's very favorite films a few years later. Yeah, it's a tough sell, but it's one that I definitely think is much loved, and it's one of those ones that I'd like to highlight. Although whether it's a top 5 musical, I don't know, but it's definitely a musical without a doubt. So Once, 2007.
Ollie, Once?
Is it a musical?
Yeah, 100%.
But not in a traditional sense, in that
modern day musical.
For me, but I just think that's just what happens in Ireland. Like there's so many musical people. They just start playing music in a shop or on the street, and that's just what they do. It just happened to be a camera there filming this. So it's not a traditional musical in the sense that in a traditional musical, people randomly just like break into song, don't they? This is, I mean, if you thought about it in terms of a documentary, you're just kind of like filming what happened. And if it's a drama, it works as a drama. So for me, it's not a traditional musical. I did really enjoy this movie. I only watched it for the first time the other day, and like Matt said, you described that beautifully, by the way, Matt. You fall in love with these characters, and you absolutely know where they're coming from, and they absolutely needed each other at this kind of part in their life. And for me, I found it kind of really quite moving at the end of the movie. I won't spoil kind of what happens, but the bit at the end of the movie, I absolutely kind of deserved the standing ovation that you talk about. As
so sweet, yeah, so sweet.
And that kind of resolution of that movie is it leaves a mark on you. And you think about other things that are kind of perhaps happened in your life or to people that you know, and you just kind of wonder what would have happened if something else, if it had gone a different way. So I did really enjoy the movie. The main character, his performance of all those songs, absolutely fantastic. But for me, it's not on a top 5 musicals list. I'm sorry, Matt.
Okay.
The scene when she, sorry, just to jump in quickly,
right.
the scene when she goes to buy batteries for the CD player to put lyrics to this track that he's given to her is for me integral to the musical side of it, because she just bursts out singing, and she's coming out of the shop, she's just bought these batteries and she's singing spontaneously down the street. That for me isn't
Okay.
probably the one strongest, the one strongest. But I get where I get where you're going from.
Yeah.
I love that. I also love the way that they just picked up the random guys off the street, the drummer, the bass player. Just off, they were like, "Yeah, you guys come on, let's go, let's just come and do it with me, let's come down the studio and just do it with me, You'll be fine, let's go and do it, you'll be all right." And then the producer, he just basically
how they win him over, it's really sweet.
Yeah, it's so sweet. He's like, these are weird, these guys, bosses, and then they just like blew him away. Sorry, go on.
No, that's fine. I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. I don't think it for me comes up there if it's a musical or not. I thought it was a good film. I didn't think it was a great film. As Matt mentioned, the director went on to make another movie, which if you'd have mentioned that movie as your nomination, it would have got a yes from me, even though that's possibly not a musical either. And that movie is Sing Street, which I think is absolutely brilliant, and everybody should watch.
It's very good, yeah, very good. But it's less of a musical than this one.
It does have a few moments of music in it as well, and the director is clearly heavily influenced by music because it runs as a theme through both those films. But yeah, for me, it's not up there, even if it was a musical, which is up for debate. Chris, once?
I've seen the stage show. I've not seen the film.
Okay. Okay. John?
Watch the film. I think it's worth a watch. I paid money. I'm not disappointed. In saying that, I don't think it's a musical film. I think it's a film with music. My definition of a musical would be a film where instead of telling the story, they start singing the story. Now, whether that's everybody joining in with a big dance number or things like that, basically it's kind of like sometimes it's almost an inner monologue, or it's a conversation put to music.
Sure.
Like I say, I love the songs in this. I think it's really good. I think, but not a musical, so no.
No, that's definition. I completely agree. Yeah, go on.
Okay. As per Wiki, okay, 1 second. A musical film is a film genre in which songs by the characters are interwoven into the narrative, sometimes accompanied by dancing. The songs usually advance the plot or develop the film's characters, but in some cases they serve merely as breaks in the storyline, often as elaborate production numbers.
It's completely on the bleeding edge of musicals. Yes. That's fine. I fully expected it. I fully expected the shutout, which is cool, man. Everyone needs a 5 out of 4 shutout over podcast.
Both the films are definitely worth watching. I think they Sing Street as well. Once I got into it, it was great. So definitely 2 films that definitely deserve to be watched, but not as a musical.
Ollie, we still need a 5th one.
I love the movie that I'm about to talk about. They've made lots of movies. All of them are musicals, just as far as I can recall. I don't think we can talk about musicals without mentioning the Muppets. So particularly the 2011 Muppet movie called The Muppets, stars Jason Segel. It introduces us to a new Muppet, which isn't something that happens very often. Walter, I think he goes straight in there as like one of the best Muppets, which, considering that the Muppets have been around since the 70s, for a new Muppet to kind of come along and instantly win your heart is incredible. I think this movie, it won an Oscar. Brett McKenzie won. He was one of the guys from Flight of the Conchords. He won an Oscar for Best Original Song. He wrote most of the songs in this movie for Man or Muppet. I don't even think that's the best song in it. I think Life's a Happy Song is my favourite song in it. There's so much heart in this movie. It's a story about the bond between two brothers, and one of them, Walter, has always kind of found that he hasn't ever quite fit in, and he wasn't really sure why, but he was always such a huge fan of the Muppets, and they go on a journey to kind of go to the Muppet studios, and when they get there it's all kind of run down and they're a bit gutted, and then they again go and try and find Kermit, and then manage to kind of convince them to kind of save like the Muppet Studios. So then it becomes a story about kind of reviving and saving the Muppet Studios. And so they kind of get together to kind of do each kind of telethon to kind of try and raise some money for that. But I think the movie essentially it's about somebody that kind of doesn't feel quite like they belong, and they don't know why. But then when they find like the people that make them feel special about themselves and make them feel like they belong, then he, like Walter, he kind of comes out of himself, and it's really sweet how his brother, played by Jason Segel, who wrote the movie as well, he's just so sweet, and that he kind of wants to look after his little brother Walter. And even though that kind of gets in his relationship, in the way of his relationship with Amy Adams, I'm talking about a Muppet movie like it's the deepest thing ever. And to be honest, it really is. Even though there's so much humour and so many fantastic songs, there's so much heart in this. And I just think that if you are a child who perhaps is a little bit different, you've got a disability, like learning disability or physical disability or something like that. And I think if you watch this movie and you saw, it's about inclusion as well. And I think it tells that from a really kind of gentle perspective. So I have a lot of love for this movie. My kids love this movie. This belongs to Phoebe. This is her Walter, because she absolutely loves the movie too. So I would love there to be a Muppet movie on this musicals list, and my favourite is 2011's The Muppets.
Nice one. I have two Muppet movies in and around my list, and this was one of them. So I'm going to say yes. I agree. I think a Muppet movie making this list is a good thing. And if you'd have said either of the two that are there, I would have said yes. So The Muppets is a yes from me. Chris?
I think it's a good film. It was a good attempt to revive the Muppets. It didn't seem to do its job, though, sadly.
It got a sequel.
Did it?
Yeah.
What was the sequel?
Yeah.
Muppets
Most Wanted.
Most Wanted.
It's not as good.
Oh.
Ricky Gervais.
And they've been trying to do TV series since.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, they've done a couple, haven't they? But they're not quite.
They're not making it. Yeah.
When I was thinking of my list, I was thinking of Muppets films, and for me, the best Muppet film they've done with music is Muppets Christmas Carol. So
That was my
that would have been on my list, but it didn't make my top 10. So I think there are better Muppet films than the Muppets.
Okay. John?
I like it. Again, weirdly, I went with my wife. I think it was for Valentine's Day. We ended up watching this. Me and my wife at the back of the cinema late night. Not late night, evening showing. It was very.
Stop describing what happened, John.
It's a very sweet movie. It's got good songs in it. I love the fact that I've always loved the fact that the Muppets are in on the joke. I love the fact that they travel by map from America to France, and without kind of blinking. It was kind of the true Indiana Jones red line trick. It's Gonzo blowing up his toilet factory. This case, wow, that's a really big explosion, but not on camera. But yeah, I have to say, I would probably have gone for the Muppets Christmas Carol over it. And yeah, I'm going to say no. But
Okay, Matt, you're muted, by the way, Matt.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I would have gone the same route as Chris and John. I hadn't seen this Muppets movie, but I would have been quite happy to put Muppets Christmas Carol on there. That was number 6 for me.
So, seeing as we're saying it, the Muppets Christmas Carol, would it been a yes if Ollie had nominated that? John, yes.
Yes.
Matt, yes. Paul, yes. Ollie, can I put the Muppets Christmas Carol on this list?
Yes, but you said yes to the Muppets, so I shall say yes to the Muppets Christmas Carol.
Yeah, nice.
Is that your nomination, Paul?
Well, I was just throwing it in there because I felt like everybody was saying yes. So the Muppets
Or is
Christmas
this?
Carol.
Are we deferring that to Ollie's?
I'm happy either way because it would have been up there as one of mine. So I'll have it as my nomination. And the Muppets Christmas Carol, I think, is one of the best Christmas movies made. It's my favorite rendition of A Christmas Carol. I love the original use of music. I love Michael Caine in the movie. I think the Muppets Christmas Carol is a great musical.
And the Charles Dickens story.
Indeed. So we've now got 5. And I can't believe my nom, off the back of your nom, has made it in.
That's a first. That's the first for this show.
Yeah. So we've got 5. Chris, can you give us 6?
I'm just looking through my top 5. Okay. My number 3 film. It's a musical that I grew up with. We always had the video, and whenever we go around friend's house, it would be on. It's a 1978. It's a bunch of 30-year-olds playing teenagers in 1950s America. Grease is the word. It's got the most amazing songs. It's John Travolta at his peak, I would say. His charisma is just oozing off the screen. Olivia Newton-John, the two of them together, just electricity. The entire cast is fantastic. The Pink Ladies and the T-Birds. Every song is instantly memorable and utterly singable. It for me, I think it's the only musical where you can still hear it being played in bars and nightclubs now. If we went out now, guarantee you we could find a bar or nightclub that's playing a song from it. And I can't think of any other musical where that's a thing. And it's just pop culture. It's so good, and obviously it spawned a sequel. And I think it was a TV series as well. It's just one of the best musicals.
John, Grease?
Nice. pretty much for all the same reasons.
Excellent. Matt? Grease?
Yep.
Excellent.
That's me showing Grease. Yep, 100%.
It is the word.
It is the word. I remember when I moved up to high school from junior school, up north. I don't know whether it was different for you guys down south. John, you're from up north, I think. Are you? Yes, sort of middle-ish.
Halfway.
Halfway. We didn't have like two versions of junior school. We just had the junior school from like primary school all the way through, and then we went to high school. So when we went to high school to year 7 or year 1 as it was called back then, we went on a trip to Menai, which is in northern Wales. And I remember we were there for a week, and we were like 10, 11-year-olds, and the first time that we'd properly been away from home. And the movie night they had on, they played Grease. And we were like, as boisterous boys are, we were like, this, well, what is this? This is terrible. We want to see Back to the Future and stuff like that. And we don't want to be seeing all this kind of like, John Travolta wiggling his hips. And so anyway, we really got into it. It was fantastic. And they wanted to do like a talent show at the end of the week on the Friday before we went home, or the Thursday night before we went home on the Friday. And me and a group of 5 other lads got together and decided to do Grease Lightning on stage. It was horrendous and terrible and embarrassing, but I loved the movie. Secretly, I loved the movie, and from that point on, I was sold on John Travolta. And it was probably one of the pivotal films that got me into serious movie watching. I'll be honest. I just love it. It's cheesy and it's probably dated a little bit. But the songs are endlessly quotable, endlessly singable. And Olivia Newton-John is just beautiful, and she's got a most amazing angelic voice. And John Travolta, what a sexy god he was. What a sexy god. So yes, for me, 100%,
Indeed.
it was my number 6.
It's made it on. Ollie, Grease?
It would have been a no from me, but what does that matter?
I know, because it would have been a yes from me, because although I really love Grease too, I really love the first Grease. I have seen it so many times. I've performed Grease Lightning on stage in my youth. I believe it or not, yes, I do love Grease, and I love Grease too. But I love this one. It's definitely in there. I had him at 2 and 3 on my list. So there we go. I'm glad it's on. Grease is our number 6 nomination. We just need one more. John?
You've read the book. You've eaten the chocolate. You've wondered how he wasn't a serial killer. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The proper Gene Wilder version, where he isn't some kind of weirdo with gloves and is just a sociopath. Excellent songs, British production, part financed by a chocolate company who wanted to bring out Willy Wonka chocolate, which didn't quite work. So everyone was a bit up in arms about the fact that they changed the title. But yeah, and sadly the sequel we never got as well. But yeah, it's a kids musical. It's a brilliant kids musical. It's great.
Okay, Matt, Willy Wonka?
I'd completely forgotten about this one, John. I don't know why. I love this
Go
movie.
on.
There's another one. There's another one I was hoping we would mention. But maybe we can get the 8th.
Why, what's that one?
I'm going to say yes. Yeah. I'm going to say yeah.
Okay. Ollie?
I love Gene Wilder. Gene Wilder. I wanted to talk about the producers, but maybe we'll get to that.
Ollie?
I do like the movie. I love the movie. I guess it's a musical. I don't. It wasn't on my list of favorite musicals, just because I sort of don't class it as that.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why I don't. I just. I still, even though I still don't. I do like it. I really do like the music. I like the book. I like this movie. I don't like the Johnny Depp version particularly, because the Gene Wilder version is so much better. I'm going to say no, because there's actually 2 other movies that I feel are deserving to go on this list.
There are so many. There really are so many.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say no to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Did Matt say yes?
I did say yes.
Matt said yes. And
I said yes.
we're rolling round to bad Paul who hasn't watched classic musicals enough, because I've never seen Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
come on.
I know.
It's not even a musical. It's just a.
on.
It's just a.
The
Great
problem is
movie.
that even my kids have watched this movie and I haven't. So yeah.
Get your kids in.
Chris, do you want to put Willy Wonka on this list?
Well, first of all, I'm going to lend you my Blu-ray of the film because I'm just annoyed that
That's
you've never seen
astonishing.
it.
It's astonishing.
It is quite astonishing. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite books. I love the film. I introduced it to my son recently, and he really likes it. I can see what Ollie means about kind of not seeing it as a musical. I think part of the reason might be that the songs are all very short, and they're almost just sort of vignettes sort of thing, and it's just but I think it's a great film, and it's part of my childhood, and I would recommend anyone to watch it who hasn't. But I think there are a few musicals on the lists that are better than Willy Wonka.
Okay,
Sorry, John.
Willy Wonka hasn't made
Fair
it.
enough.
Matt, have you got one?
Yeah, I have. I've got two more on my list. I don't know which ones to go for. Let's go for Mary Poppins. Let's go for Mary Poppins. Again, it's another one of those classic holiday movies that would always be on, like Oliver. It was one of those ones that I absolutely adored as a kid. I loved the cheekiness of Dick Van Dyke. Julie Andrews was just beautiful, and she has such an amazing voice. I loved the cheekiness of the children, and the kind of the dad who was just wanted to give up. The staging is magnificent in it. The production design, the set design is incredible. I love the way they animated Disney animation into the sequences. Supercalifragilistic, absolutely fantastic sequence. It's one of those films that my daughter and my son have watched for many years, and they would probably grump and moan about it now if I put it on for them, but they'd still enjoy it. And it's a popcorn film for me, and Mary Poppins, I would hope would go on the list.
Ollie, Mary Poppins?
It's a very long movie. When I've watched it recently several times with the kids, and I just sit there going, "Oh my God, when's this going to end?" I enjoyed it as a kid. I loved the bits when they jump into like Dick Van Dyke's chalk paintings with like the Disney animation and the penguins. I love all those bits. The chimney sweeps on the rooftops. But again, I know it is a musical, but it doesn't really occupy that space in my head as a top musical. And it's too long. And I've still got two movies that I think are more deserving for you in a top 7 or 8. So sorry, I'm gonna have to say no.
Okay.
It's a yes from me, Matt. I had it 6, I think, and Grease 2 hasn't made it, so it's top 5 for me. Yes, I remember it from my youth. I've watched it many times. I've shown it to my girls. I've taken my girls to the stage show that's now on in London. I have a lot of nostalgia for it. I think there is some absolutely brilliant songs. I really enjoyed Saving Mr. Banks, which is the Disney movie that kind of explains the history behind this movie. I genuinely think it's up there as one of the best musicals. So yes from me. Chris?
Well, God bless MGM for not casting Julie Andrews in My Fair Lady.
My Fair Lady, yeah.
She's, Walt Disney swooped in there and got her and made her a star. Her first film, having played Eliza Doolittle on stage just before that. It's magical. The Sherman Brothers created some amazing music for it. Walt Disney Animation, spot on. The casting is brilliant. Even Dick Van Dyke's rubbish English accent. There's it warranted an entire Simpsons parody episode with Sherry Bobbins. So it's practically perfect in every way.
Yeah.
We have 3 votes. We have 7 films. John, would it have been a yes?
Yes, and this is the version. This is the film my kids like over Mary Poppins Returns.
Yes.
My
girls
they seem
prefer
to
the
prefer they prefer the originals.
They do.
Great use of interaction between live action and animation. Yeah, absolutely. Great story.
Well, guys, we have 7 movies. 7 movies have made it on Moulin Rouge, Rocket Man, The Little Shop of Horrors, Oliver, The Muppets Christmas Carol, Grease, and Mary Poppins are our top 7 musicals. Quickly going round, is there 1 or 2 that you think deserve it? And if we decided that if we get 4 that would have said it, it's going to get that mythical 8 spot. So, Chris, is there a couple you want to quickly highlight?
Yes. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Rocky Horror Picture Show, and My Fair Lady.
Okay.
Or the other 3.
Should we vote? Do we vote? Should we vote on these?
Honest.
Or do you have to?
Just give me your honest answer of what you would have said as your 3 that you top 2 or 3 that you would have said, and if we have a lot of commonality, then it goes on. I trust everybody to be honest. So, John, anything you would have put on?
No, I like what we've got, but I would like to mention Sunshine on Leith. Made me cry. Dexter Fletcher again. A Scottish musical based on the Proclaimers songs. And I grew up with them with my dad, which is probably one of the reasons it made me cry. So yeah.
Cool. Matt, what have been left for you?
I would have said Chitty Chitty Bang Bang as well. And I also would have said Bugsy Malone.
Okay. Ollie, what were those 2 that you wanted to mention?
I mean, Wolverine's got a really good set of pipes on him, hasn't he? So
Yes.
Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, really good in Oklahoma.
2 movies that both got Hugh Jackman in, that were both in my top 5, were The Greatest Showman. The whole family here absolutely loves that one, and I absolutely loved the film version with him in of Les Miserables as well. I love the stage show and the film version of it. I thought was absolutely brilliant. Also, so I'm a bit disappointed that neither of those seem to have made the list.
Okay. For me, there was 2 as well. One of them, I will have to say, was The Greatest Showman. I think it's great. It's one of the films that my kids have probably watched more than any other. The songs are bandied about in my house. They have danced on stage to songs from The Greatest Showman. So it has a lot of meaning to me. So that is one that I would have potentially mentioned. And then my number 1, I'm afraid Chris is going to look at me probably with disdain, would have been South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut. I think it is an absolutely brilliant musical that is so self-referential. The songs are excellent. It's about the 4 kids going to watch a movie version of Terrence and Phillip, which was R-rated, which is exactly what everybody said about kids going to watch South Park. It was just, I thought it was a brilliant film and a brilliant musical. I don't think we had anything that would have nominated to that 8 spot, guys. So
I might have added myself to my voice to The Greatest Showman as well. Ashamedly, I did forget about that. But that's three votes.
It's only 3, I'm afraid. Yeah. So
okay.
we've got our clear top 7, and we've got to get rid of 2 guys. So going round, I'll carry on in the same order. Chris, what's least deserving of Moulin Rouge, Rocket Man, Little Shop of Horrors, Oliver, Muppets Christmas Carol, Grease, and Mary Poppins?
Man.
Rocket Man. John?
of these, personally, Oliver.
Okay.
Sorry.
Matt,
Rocket Man.
Rocket Man. Ollie.
I'd have said Grease.
Okay. Let's look at this list properly. I probably would have said, yeah, it was Rocket Man or Oliver, so probably Rocket Man for me, I'm afraid. So Rocket Man has gone. So what's number 2? Least deserving, Chris?
Because it's the only one that was not in my top 10 Muppets.
Okay. John? You've already given
Grease.
me.
Oh yeah.
Did you give me Grease or Oliver?
Oh no,
Did you
I said Oliver.
Are you going to stick with Oliver?
Yeah, I'll stick with Oliver.
Matt?
Muppets.
Muppets. Ollie? You gave me Grease already, didn't you?
I say Grease, yeah.
And I, being honest, would have said Oliver, which means that Ollie, you've got this horrible decision to make because you're the outlying vote and you have to decide between Oliver and the Muppets Christmas Carol.
To be fair, that's
not
an easy
horrible.
decision.
No, it's easy.
Yeah, the Muppets Christmas Carol doesn't deserve to make the top 5 then, I would say.
Okie doke. So guys, we have our top 5 musicals, and these are currently in no order: Moulin Rouge, The Little Shop of Horrors, Oliver, Grease, and Mary Poppins. So me, John, and Ollie have voted. So Chris, what is least deserving of those 5?
Little Shop.
Little Shop. And Matt?
Can you just repeat them for me again?
Moulin Rouge, Little Shop of Horrors, Oliver, Grease, and Mary Poppins.
Oh my gosh. Grease.
Grease,
yeah.
Well, that's 2 for Grease and 2 for Oliver. So, Chris, you got to pick between those 2 classics, Oliver or Grease, as our number 5.
Grease.
Grease is our number 5 musical this week. Matt picked Grease and Ollie picked Grease. So, you guys, Matt, what's next least deserving?
Mary Poppins.
Wow, Matt's nomination. Mary Poppins. Ollie, you got the choices of
I'd have said Little Shop of Horrors.
Little Shop of Horrors, which means we got 2 each. So Matt, sorry, back to you. Little Shop of Horrors or Oliver?
Oh, geez, man. Oh my God, that is the worst decision. They're my top 2, basically.
There's only one right answer.
What was 2?
Oh my God.
Kill your darling.
I would have put Moulin Rouge in there before them too. Oliver.
Oliver is number 4 on this list.
Sorry. That was like the worst decision.
Yeah. So you've already voted for Mary Poppins. Ollie's done Little Shop. Chris has done Little Shop. So John of Moulin Rouge.
Sorry, mate. I was going to say Poppins.
And Poppins.
Hang on. Could I have not said Poppins before? No,
you said Poppins.
I said it first.
You had to choose between the 2 that were 2 votes.
Yeah.
So we got 2 for Mary Poppins and 2 for Little Shop of Horrors. God, that's a horrible choice for me. And because it wouldn't have been Moulin Rouge, so I'm picking between these 2, and I would say Little Shop of Horrors. So Little Shop of Horrors is our number 3. So number 1.
Wow.
Moulin Rouge or Mary Poppins? Chris?
Moulin Rouge was always my number one from when I started. It was the first film I thought about when I was thinking about musicals, and it was the first one I put down and could decide. So Moulin Rouge for number one.
John?
Moulin Rouge.
Moulin Rouge. Matt?
Yeah.
Moulin
Same.
Rouge.
Mhm.
Ollie?
Yeah, same.
I would have gone
Wow.
Moulin Rouge as well. So Moulin Rouge is our
Wow.
number one
I would never
musical
thought of that.
of
Oh, okay.
all time.
Wow.
Number 2 is Mary Poppins. Number 3 is Little Shop of Horrors. Number 4 is Oliver. And number 5 is Grease.
Are you going to do it, Ollie?
Nearly forgot.
Do it again?
Play the sting.
So that's musicals, guys. What do we think? Chris, are we happy?
Yeah.
Nice one.
That's a fairly classic list. That I would say.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of movies that I think when you say musical, I think you think of a lot of those, and the modern classic has come out on number one. So yeah.
Almost one from each decade. Almost one from each decade.
Very nearly. So anything to sign off, guys? Chris?
There will be a 40 on film to follow this musical. Been a bit lax of late getting these added, so I'll be back on that, adding some more, and yeah, just keep making suggestions for topics. Always appreciated.
Definitely. John?
Life has been getting in the way, but I'm hoping to catch up on our movies you do not need to see because we've seen them for you. Also, keep an eye out for our initial reviews for stuff coming out of the cinema as and when we get back there. If you want to submit some initial reviews, feel free, send them to our email address or maybe to our socials at 5 on Film Podcast or on all the socials, or 5onfilmpodcast@gmail.com. If you have anything, send it to us. We'll pop it on. If you don't like us, please tell us. If you like your classics, we'll give you Paul's address. If you like the modern ones, we'll give Chris yours. Get in touch. Let us know what you think, and anything you want, let us know.
Indeed. Matt?
No, nothing from me. Just go out, watch films, enjoy yourself, have fun. Go to the cinema.
Ollie?
Can I just make a request? I feel like this podcast is lacking a bit of song, and I feel, Chris, we need something from you at this point. Just a couple of bars of something.
Okay. So Seymour is begging with the plant with Audrey 2 to grow, and he's just realized that Audrey 2 likes his blood. So I've given you sunshine, I've given you rain, looks like you're not happy unless I open a vein. I'll give you a few drops if that'll appease. Oh, please grow for me.
That was brilliant. Thank you.
Well done, Chris. Well done.
That was.
I would have gone with Grease Lightning, but hey.
And I'm not doing that, I'm afraid.
Supercalifragilistic. Come on.
Well, that's it, guys. This has been our first one on camera. So I hope that a few people have checked us out on YouTube as well as on the audio feed. Tell us if you like seeing us. and comment in the comments below on YouTube and let us know what you'd like to see from us, what you'd like us to discuss. We have got a guest on next week's show, and this man here, Chris, is going to be jumping into the hosting seat because I won't be available for our next podcast, which is Disney animation. We're going to try and break down the top 5 Disney animated movies. And then after that, we have a viewer's submission, and we're going to try and look at World War II films. We're going to go a little bit different in tone and try and work out the top 5 World War II films. So I hope you've enjoyed, and we will see you soon.
Goodbye.